Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, rather had fun.
I was going to ask you guys, have you read the YOLA claim? I spent an hour last night reading every page.
Like the actual class
Just-
action lawsuit?
No, not the class action, the YOLA claim as plaintiff against defendant USA Pickleball.
No, I didn't know it was public. Well, let's start there. Okay, so we're live. So this is a good starting point. You did a cram session of the suit. So give us the spark notes.
So you guys you haven't read the claim, right, Zane?
Nope.
It is fascinating. If what is true in there that YOLA asserts, I think USA Pickleball is in big, big trouble. And I think it's in the best interest of both parties to settle this as soon as possible, relist the paddles, and really give the people what they want. You know, you and I can sit here all day, you guys, in an echo chamber of pro pickleball and say hot paddles are the devil. We want to ban hot paddles. It's not safe. But guess what's selling? Hot paddles. Behind the Gen 3, it's Gearbox Pro. They can't keep them in stock, right? So I think if what YOLA says is true in this claim, USA Pickleball is in hot water. Here it is in 90 seconds, the whole 50-page brief. In September, 2 base models of the Gen 3s were approved. In November, they submitted 9 similarity paddles. Now, do you guys know what you're allowed to change when you submit a similarity paddle?
Isn't it basically just graphics?
And shape.
It is.
Graphics and shape. So they submit 9 similarity paddles and they pass. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Those similarity paddles accidentally had a little bit of extra foam in them that did not match the 2 base paddles. However, YOLA asserts that what was mass produced, sold, and manufactured didn't have the extra foam. But USA Pickleball is hanging their hat on those similarity paddles, had that extra foam, so we're delisting you and we're not giving you an 18-month runway, which in our own rules and regulations, we say you'll have an 18-month runway. There are text messages from Justin Maloof and Carl Schmitz, so that's the COO of USA Pickleball and the head of equipment and standards, saying to YOLA, your paddles are too hot. Never did they say anything, oh, it's too much grit. It's too hot. And then when YOLA asks, why did you fail our resubmission? They say too much grit, but they changed the grit standards as the claim asserts. So it really feels like, to me at least, when you read this 50-page brief, that USA Pickleball regretted ever passing the Gen 3s, period. Then tried to go back on a technical mistake and say, here's the reason we're hanging our hat. And Justin went so far as to write YOLA and say, if you ever resubmit anything that even appears like you submitted in September, it will never be approved. Isn't that kind of self-indictment? They already approved it.
So have you ever been like a teacher?
No, why?
I feel like this is great. This is like you're teaching like a class right now. You sound like a professor.
It's amazing because I've had no caffeine and it's 6:30.
You got to teach Thomas what RZ is now.
No shot. I don't even want to learn. Well, that still doesn't tell us what happened to Rhombus and Vatic, though, correct?
Correct. And I wish I knew a little bit more about that.
Right. That's one of the things I was going to ask is like, you know, what are you hearing, right? You would assume that USA Pickleball is coming down on Rhombus, Vatic, and YOLA for similar or the same reasons. But that's a very specific claim from YOLA, the extra foam. It'd be unlikely that that was also the case for Rhombus and Vatic. So, you know, what about those 2 paddles got them delisted?
Well, I can tell you that I spoke to a major manufacturer, ran into him last night waiting for the shuttle in San Clemente. He builds a paddle. And I said, well, what do you think about YOLA not receiving their 18-month runway to delist? He said, you don't get a runway when you cheat. His words. And so that might be what's happening to Omni and Rhombus. YOLA feeling like, hey, you're using foam and materials that we say you can't use. You're out. You don't get our good grace.
Mm-hmm. So it's material, but you're implying that it's materials that they knew they couldn't use.
I know that with the Rhombus, it's that. The Omni, I'm not familiar with what the reason behind the delisting.
Right.
So I don't put it past paddle companies to cheat with their pros. I don't see really how it would make sense for paddle companies to cheat with their amateurs, right? You want to create a great paddle. So are you buying this? Are you buying any of the USAP claims here or do you think that USAP realized they screwed up and came back on them with a technicality?
I think what's tough is they have the text messages, which in the claim, it literally shows them. And the text messages say, we have concerns. And this is days before JOOLA launched to the public. Days.
Yes.
We have concerns your paddles are too hot. And this is after the similarity paddles were approved, after the base models were approved, before they had any knowledge that there was extra foam in the similarity paddles.
Yes.
It wasn't about grit, but then failed them based on grit. They also failed them on saying, well, you used marketing to say that you have a trampoline effect, and that's against rule, 2EFG. But they knew all of that when they approved them. So don't approve them. Like YOLA's sitting on 150,000 paddles that say USA Pickleball approved. And they sold, how many hundreds of thousands have they already sold?
So when all this is going down, Jill, like we at the pro level are just feeling the impact of these Gen 3 paddles, like the gearbox, the YOLA Gen 3s, like we're obviously winding up a storm about how these paddles are changing the game at the pro level. And I think USAP caught wind of that after a while, right? They're usually and famously a little bit late to the party. What should they have done? Do you think that, let's just say in a vacuum, we're not worried about what happens between USAP, what happened between YOLA? Like, do you think these paddles are good for the game or bad for the game? Without respect to any of the administrative proceedings of the certification.
No, we've been super vocal, at least on our podcast, about how bad I think these are for the game, how unlevel the playing field is in professional, how this is the asterisk era of pickleball, right? But all things aside, I mean, it's what the consumers want. And in a lawsuit, the absolute toughest thing to prove is damages. And YOLA has damages. So let's really think of this. The claim that they have submitted is for $200 million, $100 million of punitive damages. If USA Pickleball has a 30% chance of losing this battle, that is immense exposure. That is bye-bye USA Pickleball.
Right.
And if they don't settle, what happens to YOLA? Is that good? If they go out of business? Are they okay? So I think this is going to get settled very quickly. And maybe it's hey, we're going to let you sell your stock and we're going to delist you in 1 year.
But this has been boiling up for years, all the way back to the ProLite Apex paddle, where they submitted something. And this was back in 2018, 2019.
What's the ProLite Apex paddle? Tell me everything.
Yeah, so the ProLite Apex paddle came out in 2018, 2019, something like that. And as Wisconsin company, my buddy Neil Friedenberg runs it, and essentially they had a somewhat similar situation where they submitted this paddle. It was a pretty gritty paddle for the time, but it was before the Franklin Ben Johns paddle sort of set the standard for grit. The claim is, and this never went to court or anything, that ProLite submitted a paddle that was less gritty and sold a paddle that was grittier to the general public. I believe it got delisted. But we would have to confirm that. But it was the first case of basically a little bit of shady back and forth between paddle companies and USAP. This has been going on and getting more and more for a while. I didn't do a great job of explaining that first controversy. But
no, that's super interesting.
Look at this bad boy right here.
the funny thing is they resubmitted
$75.
The exact same pedal, redid the design and called it the Covert and got approved like 3 months later.
Did they name that ironically on purpose?
Yes.
The Covert?
Yeah. And
So
it was the exact same paddle.
Okay, I was playing in a PPA in Vegas with my little brother. We had gotten to, I think, the bronze match, and I pretty much had to throw in the towel because my calves started cramping like crazy. And all I was thinking was, I need some hydration mix. CorVive Hydrate is an advanced electrolyte drink mix designed to ensure optimal hydration, essential for maintaining nerve, muscle, could use that, and brain function. Probably could use that too. The Hydrate formula is NSF certified for sport, and it's free of artificial colors and sweeteners with 4 times less sugar, important, and 3 times the electrolytes of grocery brands. The pure cane sugar aids in the efficient absorption of electrolytes, making it superior to water alone. Hydrate is used by more than 4 MLB teams, and Pink Lemonade is available in stick packs or a tub. Use code PICKLE, all caps PICKLE, at CorVive.com to save 30% on your order.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, dollar had gonna yagi.